So my favorite part of the library is the sense of community that it creates and just the happiness that I gain from that.
I like the staff here. Everybody's nice. It's just like good people to be around.
I really like the Children's Cove because there's a lot of graphic novels that I like to read.
Well, before the pandemic, coming here for the snacks.
It's definitely your office. Over the years, I was at least 7 or 8 years old, and I was definitely in the library a lot because my mom was working more than one job, and she had to come to the library to print stuff a lot. So when we were here for about 2 to 3 hours a day, and I would get very bored because Roblox, it doesn't fill my sufficiencies all the time. So I would come talk to you, and we would just keep on talking until you either had to go back to work or I had to go. And it was pretty fun.
My favorite library story is my brother and I used to go to the library a lot, not for the books, but rather for the computers to play ABC Mouse on back when we were young.
Every time I would go to Laurel Library, since it was renovated, I would always go to the vending machine just because I would love to like get snacks and just eat and like read my favorite books there.
Yeah, a lot more like the opportunities and things like before they had like the virtuality things and the homework club and the science lab. But then after quarantine, most of it got shut down. So bringing those back could probably bring more people to the library.
I think that should recontinue the snacks because the vending machines are most reliable.
Yeah, and sometimes they steal your money.
I would love for the library to implement a little bit more of SGA into it, and kind of connect and make more connections through it for more students to be involved in that as well and for communities to come together.
I would definitely want more virtual activities. I think for me at least, going in person and because I do so many activities after school, like that are already in person, it makes it very difficult for me to partake in activities that are in person at the library. So definitely having more online activities would be amazing.
The hardest part of the pandemic has been this blue light.
I'm figuring out how to do school online because I'm a social person.
Because with virtual school, they didn't really teach us things. They more just assigned us work and then told us to do it.
I think that the hardest part of the pandemic was being able to cope and being by yourself all the time.
The hardest part of the pandemic has definitely been my social life. I've definitely become an introvert.
Staying home, I felt isolated for a while because waking up to see the same house, same structure every single day got tiring. And then after a point, my family and I, we didn't have a relationship because I was always going outside and hanging out with my friends before the pandemic. So it was really hard to maintain that relationship and just having to stay there with them all the time. And then after a while, it became toxic, and there was just nobody I could really talk to. So I had to learn to talk to my family before going straight to my friends because it took a long time to learn that family's more important than friends.
Getting back to like how it used to be, because most of the time when I had a computer work to do, it doesn't mean like into the library because I couldn't really do it at home because I didn't have a computer at home. But now that they like gave us computers, I can really just do my homework at my own pace.
I was kind of sad with the library being shut down for a little while since like I used to come here very often. So it not being here made me and some of my friends kind of sad since we used to come here like every day, even on the weekends. That's just a place to hang out and have fun.
We were in the house for like 500 something days. I don't remember how much exactly, but I know it was over 500. And during those like 500 days, it's like I didn't remember anything, and then all of a sudden we're just back to school.
If I had questions and I had to ask the teacher, she'd have to like mute, and then I'd have to say something, or I couldn't really talk on the teacher like in private.
What have I learned from the pandemic? A lot about medicine, a lot about COVID itself, the S protein, things like that.
It's really hard. Like that interacting with like other people is very important because having to stay inside a lot and like only interacting with like family and like only contact your friends on like devices is really hard, and like you get not touch starved, but you miss that interaction of other people.
I have learned from this pandemic that not always having something to do isn't a bad thing. I've been really able to spend some quality time with my family that I haven't been before the pandemic.
I feel like it's really weird, but I feel like it's almost like a social media ecosystem. You know, I know at least myself, I've learned about the pandemic from online. I've learned almost everything I know about the pandemic online from social media and Google and all these other sites. And it's really crazy to see how something that may have happened, like a crazy story about COVID or anything else happening during the pandemic, could have happened continents away. Yet it still may keep me up at night and make me think. So it's cool, and it's, like I said, an ecosystem. There's pros and cons, but it all functions in one circle of how much of a impact we have on each other, even when we're not in person.
I would definitely have to say is being online for a very long period of time. That's why being in person, especially at a community like the library and it's so calm and quiet, is super duper important.
A lot of people from school who are like, oh yeah, we're friends, right? But then when they came down to it, they just talked to me at school, like if it's just a thing to do. The people who like actually talk to me consistently throughout the quarantine are people who are like, oh yeah, they're my actual friends. Same with the librarians, because like when I came back, even though I look pretty different than how I did before, I'd say all of them remembered me, so it was still cool to talk to the people who I talked to like years ago.
I shouldn't take my time for granted because before the pandemic, as I said before, I could go outside, do anything. But then it came to a point where I couldn't go outside at all. And then when I could go outside, I had to go outside with a piece of clothing over my face, a mask. And at certain times I felt like not just I was isolated in my room, but like I couldn't show my face, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't do anything. So I would have just stayed inside, but then I had to learn to live with it because obviously if I don't wear a mask, that could cost my entire life.